Hi everyone, it's Jerry. I have a sharp game to share with you from 2012. Rapid format. Sudden death, 20 minutes apiece. On the white ends, Magnus Carlsen playing against Judit Polgar. Alright, what opening are we staring at in this one? We have a King's Indian defense. Let's see how Polgar handles the trio. H3. No pin of the knight allowed. No knight jumps. Bishop can feel more stable on E3. Also, in Carlsen's future, a space grab on the king side. That's now supported. Follow up E5. Targets the weakest point in white's position, D4 as a whole. And Carlsen's reaction is a space grab on the queen side, D5. Now, taking twice on E5, you're asking for trouble. Knight captures E4 being the trouble. Not necessarily straight away, but the general idea to unleash the bishop on that point. So the response to E5 is D5. E5 has softened up C5, and that point is eyed right away. Bishop E3. And from here, Queen E8. From E8, the queen has a few things in mind. You are opposite the king. There can be some tricks on the E file that surface. However, indirect, there is some pin going on there with the king still in the center. Looking at this diagonal, how might the queen be purposeful? Supports a knight on H5. Knight on H5 can be vulnerable after a follow-up idea of F5, a couple captures, and there you go. You have a duo. G-pawn not securing the knight, but the queen is. Queen is there defending the knight against any discovered tricks. And this diagonal here, in some cases, depending on how white reacts in the center, she can be there to facilitate a B5 advance. All right, we continue with G4. Knight C5, Knight D2, all knights are competing for that E4 square. It is held together. And now, the knight on C5 is ready to be kicked, so some stability for that piece. Bishop E2, C6 break, Rook G1, King H8. This is not just about, hey, let me get off of the same file as the rook. What more is going on? Well, after H4, the knight goes back home. G8 now vacant. F5 is right around the corner. So, after Queen C2, there's a bit of a inconsistent play, I guess we can say. We don't see the expected F5 after investing these two moves. I guess Polgar had a change of heart. At this stage, does not play F5. Instead, it's Bishop D7. Computer says you could play this. In fact, it's giving these two moves equal weight. Just a note or two about the evaluation with such an opening and variation. It's almost always going to like white by at least a pawn. By this point, with a pawn on D5, it gives this pawn great weight. But this could easily shift. It's a very dynamic position. Tactics will be king. All right. From here, we have Bishop D7. Follow up queenside castles. Now we get the capture on D5. Pop quiz. How would you recapture on D5? Feel free to pause the video. Okay, in the game, knight captures D5 is played. This is considered top. What's the story with the pawn captures? Now let's touch on each. If E takes, there's now a majority for black, and it wants to roll with it straight away. Looking at F5, control E5. If white captures towards the center, this is where we could see that earlier mentioned B5 show up. It has support for it. Critical moment for white, by the way, with such a line. With B4 nearby, knight kicked, possible pin and win of the queen. It wants to go for a bishop for knight exchange here, connected passer to work with, and now follow up with a4, carving out a square on c4 for the minor pieces. This position would be critical for black, by the way. If you play b4, it's too locked a position on the queen side, and that's going to buy white all day to make headway on the other wing, attacking the king. He wants to take on a4 here and at least have a line to work with, a nice pivot for a rook, I imagine, on b4. Anyhow, white's response to this capture takes with the piece. Now, there's no longer white pawn controlling these squares. Knight hops to e6, makes use of that detail, and this piece, at least for black, top. Two great jumps, f4, d4, both holes, also a defensive role. What is this knight not doing? After h5, here's another point. It's there to support g5, ensuring that the king side does not easily open up. Follow up king b1, bishop a4. Computer wants knight b3 here. All right, b3 played. Not too great a difference with the evaluation between these two moves. So Polgar has provoked a weakness with b3. This is probably good news for this rook and this bishop. They could potentially be a fantastic piece. They're just a blink away from maybe being a fantastic piece. a5 nearby, maybe a quick opening up of the a file now. Tension on b3. And if this diagonal ever opens up, this pawn is able to capture or move. The bishop now sees as far down as that corner square. Now that b3 is in. So this knight, wherever it goes, you pretty much just have to try and work around it now. And we see just that. When the knight hops into f4, the bishop goes back home and says, all right, I got your forward moves under control. All right, follow up from here, knight to b6. Computer at this moment and the following move, it's looking at h6. Wants to pitch a pawn and then work on this half open file. All right, we don't see h6 in this game by Carlsen, that is. We have knight b6, rook d8, queen c3, going hunting for a pawn, knight f4, and bishop to f1. Poison knight, cannot allow this diagonal to open up. h6, queen takes a, f5. Now what? In the game, g takes f is played. That's considered top. If you take with the pawn, this pawn is now free to advance. Not necessarily straight away, but knight f6, e4, maybe even d5. There's a lot of support for a d5 break. This king is not going to feel comfortable with the center being blasted open. This king, the black king, feels nice and comfortable with fixed h and g pawns. So the correct way is to take towards the center. I did test out this f3 move here. This would not be a good idea because here's one sample line. We can have a capture on g4, and then knight f6 packs two punches, e4 and g4. How would white defend e4 in this position? Tricky. Two attackers. If you try knight d5, this is how black can respond. There's knight captures g4. And after rook captures knight, queen captures pawn. There's a problem with both rooks, both unprotected. So my point, not a good idea to respond to f5 with f3. And g takes f, it is. Queen captures h5. Rook under fire, rook e1, knight f6, targets e4, knight d5, and from here we have rook a8, and then rook on f to d8, watching over d6. Now at this stage, Carlsen blunders. Sharp position. He ends up playing f3. Here's what the computer is looking at. It wants to exchange knights, get rid of strong defender straight away, and now at this stage it wants to go with f3. Okay, we're going to see what the issue is by playing f3 straight away in this game. Let me throw this one to you as a pop quiz. How would you respond in this position? Feel free to pause the video. Okay, one winning way, a little baby move here. Queen h4, this is lost for white. Rook is under fire. Anything else? You bet. The queen is opposite the queen. After the rook is saved, we now have bishop takes knight, no defender for the queen anymore. C takes bishop, and now knight 4 takes d5. Knight is poison. You drop the queen. And there's a fork. And the queen is not able to move and successfully defend the bishop. You got all these squares covered. 2 by the knight, 2 by the pawns. Polgar's winning a piece. What a cool move. I didn't see this one coming, this lateral play by the queen. That was awesome. So let's see what Carlsen's try is. He's going to be down a piece. He goes for the capture on g5. Queen takes g5. Rook takes queen is played here. If pawn takes knight, you drop the rook. Okay, and this one, rook captures queen, knight captures queen, rook backs off, and now the d5 break. Pawn takes, knight f recaptures, knight e4, knight e3, f6, bishop backs off. White has nothing here. Everything's under control. This knight is a strong piece, but its forward moves are all under control. Rook h2, offer rook exchange, knight for bishop exchange, king improvement. Rook b2, rook c7 is played here, going in for the fork. There's a way out with the check. So just cover a base point. c5, knight d3. Now there is a pin here. Unpins. c6 break. And king improvement. Everything's under control. There is a passed pawn here that will roll shortly. Rook b6, knight c5, getting more exchanges in. Can't avoid this. So a pair of rooks comes off. Carlsen tries to keep the knight around. H-pawn starts to roll. Rook d2, knight h3, knight e6. The knight is under control yet again. Barely has a square. Carlsen plays a4. And after rook h2, Carlsen resigns. What he's supposed to do here, there's no time to just continually run with the pawn. Let's test this out. The knight falls, this pawn falls, and there's no stopping rook here. The bishop is supporting that rook move. And if Carlsen tried something else, knight g1, you end up in a pin. It can be defended, but now there's bishop c5. More trades nearby, bishop in a spot to stop the pawn, and this one will decide soon enough. So, what a cool game. I really like that sequence. I want to just go back to it one more time. That was so cool. Queen h4, tiny move. Did you see that one coming? Did you see that pin in this middle game position on the 4th rank? Sharp eye there with the tactics. Anyhow, your thoughts with this one. Feel free as usual to leave any feedback to this video in the comments section below. Hope you enjoyed it and maybe took a thing or two away. That's all for now. Take care. Bye.